Hey everyone, welcome to the first project in Engineering Technology 497. This particular project involves installing a Microsoft Windows servers. So Windows servers have been around for a while. We use them every day. For example, if you're browsing the internet, we are accessing a server somewhere in the world. Servers can also host and share files so that people in an organization can access files that are stored in a particular server. And other useful things are things like installing applications on those servers, like databases, web servers, financial applications, and those things. So there's a lot of common businesses that have server environments, and that include Microsoft Windows Server. They are the easiest to install and configure, and we're going to go through that in this lab. We're going to be learning a lot of different things, including how to create users that can access the server, how to create shares. At the same time, we're going to be learning a lot of different networking protocols, including what DHCP is, WINS, DNS. All of these different acronyms will become familiar to you as you use these products. Although you have been using a lot of these things, you just may not know that you're using it. For example, you're using the TCP/IP protocol, which is the Internet Protocol. And you use that anytime that you browse a web page. And there's other ones, UDP, etc. We're going to be learning a few networking DOS commands. PowerShell is another command prompt that is used in Microsoft servers to access more powerful commands. The idea is that in your laptop or your desktop, you will install a software that is called a hypervisor, and the one that I picked to use is VirtualBox. VirtualBox is a free software that can be accessed online. It's a free software that is open source. It is produced by Oracle, one of the largest database software companies in the world. But it's a really neat tool. With VirtualBox, again, you're running a hypervisor, which means you can run multiple operating systems inside the VirtualBox. So imagine having a box with a lot of tools in it, and each tool is its own operating system. So you can install things like Windows 10 machines, server machines, Linux machines, and all of those things. So it's extremely useful. Now, I put the files on there. If you go to the memory stick that's included with your networking kit, there's a memory stick that has everything you need. So you'll see Project 1 Windows Server, and you'll see in there the VirtualBox installation file. Okay, so we're going to install that. After that, we're going to install the extension pack. So all you have to do is basically double click this file and run it, and just follow the prompts. So installation is very simple, right? All of these things you can leave as default. You can create menus, all of these things can be set as default, and then you just say let's see, reset your network connection, temporarily disconnect you from the internet. Okay, that's fine. So we'll install it, so it'll temporarily disconnect you from the internet. While that's installing, let's continue reviewing what else is going to be involved in this particular project. So you'll install the first server, and it's called a domain controller. So a domain controller is the first server in a network environment. So you can have multiple servers. One can be your web server, one can be your database server, one can be your file share server, and it's called a forest. So you can have a forest of servers, and the primary server that hosts all the users and everything else that has to do with security is called a domain controller. All right, so this is called a domain controller. If you want to know more about VirtualBox, of course, you can go to virtualbox.org. And if you want to know more about the different applications that are out there that can host virtual environments, there's that link, and it just takes you to this particular one. It's a comparison. The other product that's out there that's really good is called VMware, and this is probably the industry standard. They have free tools where we can run in an educational environment. You know, we can run our own little virtual machines in our own computer. Of course, companies that have, you know, big server rooms, they will run VMware and other hypervisors, and they will run hundreds and thousands of virtual servers in there. I used to manage a bunch of servers in a virtual environment for the university a few years back, and we used the VMware products. So it just takes you through the different types of products that are out there, but again, I decided to use the free one that's called VirtualBox. So this is VirtualBox, for example, and you can have, again, multiple operating systems. You can have Linux, you can have a Mac OS running, and so you just install it and open it inside there, and you can do different things. So in this lab, we're going to install the first server, and then after that we're also going to install a Unix machine and another workstation like a Windows 10 machine, and we're going to interconnect them inside this environment without affecting your computer, because after that all you have to do is delete the files and delete the entire program, and you're done. Your computer will never even notice that you did all of these things. So it's a great way to learn and practice and run other operating systems inside your machine. This is VMware, and again, you can pick whichever one you want. They're all great tools. Alright, let's see what it's saying here. Okay. Do you want to allow this app to make changes? Just say yes. So this will continue installing. Install this driver. Yeah. Okay, you pretty much just follow the prompts, and that's it. You can just click finish. It'll start the program. All right, let's look at how the lab report is going to look like. There are some lab report samples, by the way, under the folder in the Project One server. So if you open up the sample report 1, these are reports from previous students, and this is the, look at this, this is 2003 server. We're going to be installing Windows 2019 server or 2012, depending on how it goes. But here's a little bit what it looks like. We have the objective, materials and equipment used, the procedure of what we did. Right, so I like to know what it is that you were doing, and very simple, it's a summary of procedures of things that you had to do. So I'm including this sample report so you can kind of see how people did it. And then there's some questions you have to answer. As you go through this, you can do some research on things like what is an Active Directory. And I'll just tell you that Active Directory is basically what Microsoft uses to store user accounts and security settings, and to manage all the computers that connect to the server. So it's a Microsoft-based tool where you can manage objects in your network environment. You have WINS and DNS, right? These are all WINS and DNS. This is the domain name services, and this is also another naming service protocol. It's basically a way to resolve names from IP addresses. So every computer has its own address, which is a numeric number. But if you want something useful like Microsoft.com or Google.com, instead of memorizing the IP address of the server or that particular unique address, this particular services, which are servers, can actually translate those names. It's a name resolution service. Okay, so it allows you to set a name from one address to an actual name. Let's see, provide printouts of the DOS commands. So you're going to be learning a whole bunch of different networking DOS commands, like pinging. Pinging allows you to see if a computer is alive. So what you do is you type ping, and then you type in the IP address of the machine, and if it returns a value, then that means the computer is alive. So like this one, for example, we're using, let's make this a little bigger. So over here we type in ping and we type in the IP address, and then it returned this particular information. It says reply from this server, and it tells you the TTL, which is the time to live, was 128 milliseconds. So this was a pretty fast response from the server. We had 0 loss of packets. So when you type ping, it sends out a small file basically over the network to this server, and it says, hey, did you receive this? Are you out there? And the server replies back, right? It replies back from this IP address, and it says, yeah, I'm alive, and it took 128 milliseconds from that packet to go out there and come back over here. So we're going to be learning those kinds of tools. Another command prompt tool is the netstat, and that gives you some statistics about the IP internet protocol that is used in the network, and this is version 4. We're gonna get into detail into the class about the different versions. There's IPv4 and then there's IPv6, and that determines basically how many unique addresses you can have over here depending on the version that you're using. Okay, and then provides you some when you type in the netstat-s, it's going to give you some data back as to what it is that you found. So this is a pretty neat tool. This is if you're running IPv6, which most of us are not really running IPv6 yet. And then this gives you a little bit more information about different things. The different protocols like UPD versus TCP/IP. So UPD is a protocol that if you send out something over the internet, you do not know if that person got it or not, or that computer got it or not. It's basically more like an open loop communication. It just goes in and says, I sent it. I don't know if they got it or not. But if you're using TCP/IP to send something, when you send it, you get a return saying, yeah, that person got the packets, that person received your data. So there's two major protocols used in the internet. Is UDP and TCP/IP. So this kind of gives you a little bit more data about that as well. So it's just really nice troubleshooting tools. So you can kind of see here not only ports that are open, right? There's 64,000 ports that each computer has, and you can have those. You can use each one port to communicate over the internet, and this is how we secure computers. We can block specific ports so that people cannot get in and use a particular application. You can kind of see how a port is assigned. So for example, we're using this IP address to communicate over this particular port over here, and if that port is allowed to send or receive, the packets will go through just fine. But this kind of tells you here what ports are being open and what ports you're listening on, for example. Super useful tool. Here's another one that can give you really good information, and this one right here is ipconfig/all. It gives you information about the host name, right, your computer name. It also gives you information about the MAC address of your network card. So this is an Intel network card, and each network card, each manufacturer is assigned a unique MAC address, and this is the MAC address for that network card. Sometimes you want to secure things by MAC address. If you have a super secure network and you really don't want anybody to get in, only specific computers, you can look at the embedded MAC address of that network card, and you can basically say, hey, I only want this MAC address to access my network and nobody else. And since they're unique, only those computers will be able to access it. However, like anything else, there are tools out there that you can use to spoof or pretend that your computer has this MAC address on the network card. So even though this is unique and is embedded to the network card, there are software-based tools that you can use to spoof the network card to thinking that it's got another MAC address, and you can get into secure environments. So different things to keep in mind. This is the unique IP address of the machine. This could be changed anytime you want to. This is called the subnet mask. And the subnet mask is basically a way to this is kind of like the states in a map of America. Imagine that this is your home address and this is the state that you belong to, or the city. You can also think in terms of cities. So you have your home address and you have your city, and this will also determine how many home addresses you can have in a particular city. So depending on the values that you have over here, you can find out how many home addresses you can have. The instructor should go into deep talks about how this is configured, how we come up with this numbering scheme, what the subnet mask does, and a manual way to figure out the number of addresses allowed. I almost forgot, this is a DHCP, so this is the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Okay, this one tells the computer to grab a unique address automatically. So there's a server out there that's giving out home addresses, pretty unique addresses. And this machine says, hey, I want an address, because it's enabled to yes. And the server says, okay, here's your new home address. These are temporary addresses, so next time you log on again, or if you come back 3 days later, that server is going to give you a brand new home address, okay? Because it's a DHCP enabled machine. If it's a static address, like real servers, for example, you don't want that address to change. So we assign a real address to the machine, that way it never changes again. Okay. The addresses are maintained by a central company, basically, that says these are the addresses around the world, and this is the addresses that we're assigning to particular companies or universities. And so they'll sell you a range, and then you manage that range, right? So like this one, 192, this is not a real address. This is a local, it's called a local address that allows you to have a fake address, and the router that you have in your home, for example, or their business, is the one that is allowed to go out on the internet and come back in and grab things for you. And the router is called a router because it routes everything for you, and it brings it back to these fake local addresses. Okay, so the router plays an important role. The router will have a real IP address assigned by a company. All right, so all those details should be talked during the lecture part. But this is just a quick thing that it shows you how much we are going to cover basically. Here's another one. This is the address resolution protocol. Right, this is going to display the IP to physical address. So as an example, let's see if they typed it in here. Oh, here it is. So they type ARP-S and they type in an IP address, and it says, hey, this is the MAC address that is using that IP address. So it's another troubleshooting trick here that you can use. There's so many options that you have, right? You have all of these different options here. All right, this is a routing table. This is basically telling you that when you're going from one network to another, what IP address is it using to route packets from one place to another. So it's just a good way to know how your packets are going out of your machine to the outside world. Okay, what else we got? This is a Net Statistics workstation, and it just tells you a little bit about, bytes received. SMBs are other network protocols that are used. Some message blocks. Let me see. Number of connections made. Just information that sometimes you can find useful when you're troubleshooting different network problems. A lot of these things are used by your network administrators, but if you're a systems analyst, for example, sometimes you have to troubleshoot these things as well. A lot of the jobs kind of overlap between analysts and network administrators and things like that. So, but everyone should at least know some of these specific tools, or at least as a way to start troubleshooting problems. Here's another one. Net Statistics Server. Right, gives you a little bit more about the different things. And this one is pretty useful. I like this one. This one right here is net users. It tells you what users are connected to your computer. This is useful, for example, if you have a server and you want to know who is connected to your machine, you can do a net users, and it'll give you that. And this is another one, trace route. So this is a pretty good one, and this one will tell you how long does it take to go from one machine to another in terms of milliseconds. So you can do like a trace route to, if you know the IP address to a Google server, you can type it in here and it'll tell you how many milliseconds and all the different servers that it had to go through, or the different routers that it had to go through to go to google.com. Right, it's another troubleshooting tool. It tells you how fast is it going from one place to another. Sometimes you'll see that the packet takes a ton of different routers to get to a final destination. Sometimes it finds a straight path and it goes right to it right away. So it's a fun tool to have. Okay. And then we're going to be answering questions, right? So what is DHCP? Again, this is that server that gives an address to a computer, right? And usually it also will give you a subnet mask and a gateway, a way to get out of the network. Right, so default gateway is basically the router in your organization that allows you to go out. Then you also have these other protocols that I was talking about, like DNS. domain name server or the Windows Internet Name Service, right? These are all services that allow you to convert from an IP address to a name. Okay, so in a large organization, you don't want to keep track of hundreds or thousands of IP addresses, so DHCP will give it an IP address. You also don't want to memorize IP addresses, but you want to memorize names, server names. So this is where all these guys come in place. Okay. Let's see. You're going to create a share folder on the server, and you're going to map it. This is we're going to use a tool called Wireshark. It's a free software that sniffs packets. In other words, it will look at the network, and it will see the packets that are going through that network, basically wired or wireless, and it's really useful. Sometimes you want to know, hey, what's going on in did my packet go through? Did it even get out of my machine? Where'd it go? So you can use this tool. With this tool, you can also sniff out text that people type that is unsecure. So if somebody is typing a password to get it to an unsecure location, you will see those passwords in there. Okay, so it's very powerful, and so you got to be careful about when you're going into any website or any place that doesn't require a secure connection. If it's a plain text, this tool will actually see it. Okay, so it kind of gives you an idea of the source, destination, the protocol that you're looking at. So like DHCP, we talked about that, right? We don't really, unless we're troubleshooting DHCP problems, we don't need to worry about that. Or an address resolution protocol, right? Sometimes you want to know again what the MAC address is of a network card. You can do that. But there's some very useful protocols that you can look at, and it will give you the plain text data that's in there. Okay, so here's another one that's telling you a little bit more. Okay, so I would like to just have a few seconds, only run it for a few seconds, because this thing is going to fill up text files really big, really quickly. Okay, it's looking at all the noise that's going on your network, and networks are really noisy. There's a ton of things that are happening over the network. All right, so let's see what else we got. So Wireshark, it's another product that we're going to have to install, so it will be located in that folder. Everything that's in the memory stick is for Windows. Okay, it's for Microsoft Windows. So if you want to, you can go to the websites for the specific products, and you can download the Mac versions of it. So like if you need the Mac version for VirtualBox, you can go to downloads, and you can look for the OS X host version of it. Okay. I already downloaded the Windows server evaluations. It's only valid for 180 days, so make sure that you complete the labs on time, otherwise you'll run out of time. Okay, so the server will only run for 180 days, so you have that much time to do your labs. Similarly for the Windows 10 version also. I downloaded an ISO file, which will allow you to create a virtual Windows 10 machine later on. Okay. All right, so let's see what else we got. So Wireshark, see, we are capturing all these different protocols. Okay. All right, and a little conclusion, right? So look at what they said here. We successfully learned how to install, set up a server, along with utilizing some basic network DOS commands. Simple project. It took about a day, whole day. Basically it's showing you a whole bunch of things if you're going to become a network administrator or a systems analyst, those kinds of things. I want to show you one more thing. the book that we're using for this class is called Introduction to Networking with Network Plus. Network Plus is a certification. Okay, so it's a really good certification, and what I like about this book is that it has everything that you need basically if you want to become certified, but also it has a lot of different the lessons are really good, right? It goes into very detail. Okay, so everything that's going to be in the lectures, you're basically covering it through here. All the slides are based on this book, and you get to learn all the theoretical things behind it, all the acronyms, and then you actually put it into practice by doing this particular labs. But this is a really good book. Teaches you here, for example, this is one of the main things of this class is the TCP/IP model, right? Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol. This is how computers communicate. This is the model that won. There were many models back in the day. This is the one that actually won, and it was adopted by everyone, right? So this is the one, and then it consists of layers, and you'll go through the whole class and the whole lecture on how those layers communicate, all the way from going out when the packet goes out of your machine, right? It goes into another machine and it comes in, and then it goes right into the screen from one machine to another. So this is all very fascinating. There's a whole bunch of labs in here also that may coincide with the labs that we're actually doing. Right? So it's going to be a very exciting class. So that will be lab number 1. It will be answering some very specific questions. If you look at let's look at the requirements here. Right? For your report, you're going to answer all of those questions that you saw in that lab report. Now, based on the book that I just showed you, right? Based on that book, make sure that you answer this particular one. So you look at lesson number 1, you read it, and you'll answer these questions, and you include them in this lab report. Okay? So which of the following network topologies work best with 10 or fewer systems and users? And you will answer the question. The physical shape. So all of these questions should be answered through the lecture and through reading the lessons in the book, right? If you look at the book, it's based on lessons. So this is lesson number 3, for example. If you read the book, you should be able to answer these questions appropriately. Okay. Now, you will have to demonstrate also that you have your server up and running, and that you can create users that can use resources in your domain, right? So like when we set it up to have a share, like a folder share, we should be able to do all that. And we should be able to do a few of other things that you see in here. Okay. All right, so we go into the instructions here and how to install the server, right? How to install it in VirtualBox Manager, and so that will be the next video showing you real quick how to set up the server in VirtualBox. You already saw how to install VirtualBox. You already saw the overall requirements of the lab, and so now we're ready to show you how to install the first server. All right, so we'll see you soon for the next video. That will be part 2 of project number 1.